I have a hard time doing it to them because I'm basically a truthful person. But and frankly,
Now, we all know why Donald Trump surrounds himself with yes men and sycophants. It's so that he doesn't even have to be held to account for the utter insanity he spews on a daily basis. But every once in a while, there's a chink in the armor, and Trump is left contending with someone who, inadvertently or not, lets the truth slip out. Here, comedian Andrew Schultz's gut reaction to Trump saying that he's basically a truthful person is just to laugh in his face, which, so that we're clear, is the correct reaction. And look, I should note that Andrew is by no means a liberal. In fact, he's most recently said that Donald Trump is, quote, very enticing as a presidential candidate, which isn't surprising if you've ever seen his content. But the fact that he laughs in Trump's face is actually more damning then, because it's not like this is Rachel Maddow looking for just some reason to criticize him. This is a guy who will probably vote for Trump, and even he can't help but laugh when Trump claims that he's honest. And of course, this goes without saying, but Donald Trump may lie more than any human being I have ever seen in my life. He lied more than 30,000 times while he was president, according to a catalog by a team at the Washington Post that I really hope got a vacation after being subjected to that job after 4 years. In fact, look at how his desperation to lie has manifested itself most recently, as the Southeast contends with catastrophic hurricanes. Rather than, oh, I don't know, helping, Donald Trump has decided to use his voice and his platform to create and elevate conspiracy theories because he thinks it'll reflect poorly on Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
If you want to see how sick and distorted Kamala Harris's priorities are, just consider FEMA. F-E-M-A. You know what that is, right? The Federal Emergency Management Agency. And you read about now all the time because there's nobody that's handled a hurricane or storm worse than what they're doing right now. Kamala spent all her FEMA money, billions of dollars, on housing for illegal migrants, many of whom should not be in our country, including $1 billion for gift cards for illegal aliens and putting them up in luxury hotels with a gift card to welcome them to America as our veterans are sleeping on the sidewalks below those hotels and they're being walked into luxury hotels. Now we have a horrific disaster in North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, and Virginia. That's how big this hurricane was. And the Harris-Biden administration says they don't have any money. They've spent it all on, they spent all of their money. They have almost no money because they spent it all on illegal migrants. How would you like to be a veteran and you've been sleeping opposite the entrance to a luxury hotel and illegal migrants come in and they're going up and occupying the hotel? That's what's happening. They stole the FEMA money just like they stole it from a bank so they could give it to their illegal immigrants that they want to have vote for them this season. You know, they're trying to get them on the voters' roll. We cannot let that happen.
Now, so that we're clear, literally every single word out of his mouth was a lie. The federal government under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did not spend all of its money housing migrants. The Department of Homeland Security does have its own fund that deals with migrants, but it has nothing to do with FEMA's Disaster Relief Fund, which does have enough money to deal with those impacted by Hurricane Helene. Those who've been impacted by the hurricanes can get $750 in initial funds to pay for immediate costs like groceries, diapers, medicine, food. From there, FEMA's meeting with those impacted on an individualized basis to determine how much to allocate for repair costs. That goes up to a maximum of $42,500. The Biden-Harris administration also approved a 100% federal cost share for emergency response activities in Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, and North Carolina. They've approved major disaster declarations for Florida, Georgia, both Carolinas, Virginia, and Tennessee. They've directed the Defense Department to deploy up to 1,000 active duty soldiers to support response efforts. In all, more than 5,300 federal personnel are on the ground supporting the response. More than $20 million in individual assistance has been provided to the thousands of survivors. FEMA has shipped over 9 million meals, 11 million tons of water, 260,000 tarps, and 150 generators, all of which is to say, the notion that the government isn't responding is a lie peddled by someone who is looking to help himself politically, which elicited this response from Kamala Harris.
Well, I'll tell you, I have spoken with local officials who have been struck, for example, by Hurricane Helene. And they are doing an extraordinary job in trying to combat the misinformation. And I'm talking about sheriffs, I'm talking about mayors, I'm talking about local officials. I don't even know their party affiliation, by the way, but leaders on the ground who know that it is not in the best interest of the people living in those areas to not know their rights, not to know what they're entitled to, and to be afraid of seeking help. It is dangerous. It is unconscionable, frankly, that anyone who would consider themselves a leader would mislead desperate people to the point that those desperate people would not receive the aid to which they are entitled. And that's why I call it dangerous. And we all know it's dangerous. And the gamesmanship has to stop. At some point, the politics have to end, especially in a moment of crisis. And the crises that we've been seeing affect so many people. I've met people who have lost family members through Hurricane Helene. We know the desperation and the fear that the folks who are attempting to evacuate Florida are experiencing. The last thing that they deserve is to have a so-called leader make them more afraid than they already are.
So yeah, one of those people sounds like a leader, and the other is Donald Trump. And look, this is just one example where Trump's inability to be honest, even for a fleeting moment, is having dire ramifications for Americans. Think about, for example, how many people heard his lies about migrants using up all the FEMA money and didn't bother applying for relief funds. That means people who need help won't even bother seeking it out, despite the fact that it's available, because Trump decided to lie to help himself politically ahead of the election. Think about the people rotting in prison because Trump summoned them to the Capitol on January 6th so that they could do his dirty work as he tried to steal the election. Think about all of his attorneys and aides and staffers who've been disbarred and indicted for their participation in his criminal schemes. Think about the low-income folks across the country who bought his lies about a middle-class tax cut that never materialized because he was too busy passing a tax cut for the wealthy. Think about all of those who bought his lies about an infrastructure law that never materialized, who bought his lies about a healthcare plan that was cheaper and more comprehensive that never materialized, who bought his lies about a jobs boom that never materialized. Donald Trump will say anything if it sounds nice, but let's be clear, the fact that he says it bears zero relationship to the likelihood of it actually happening. Donald Trump lies because he knows that there's an entire media apparatus behind him to carry water for him and repeat his lies to convince the rubes who trust them that they're the truth. They are not. They are just partisan hacks peddling outright lies to help their political deity. So the next time you hear Trump or his mouthpieces claim that he's telling you the truth about anything, you'd be well served to respond in the only way that's appropriate, to laugh in his face because it's clear that he's lying. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on the screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on the screen. Thanks so much for watching.